I am deeply shocked. I had so much hope that a woman of mixed race, married to a Jew, could be elected president of this country for the future of my children, especially my daughter, who now has less than I did. What if I tell you that behind every smile of Melania's is a cry for help that no one hears? Because what was shown on national television left millions speechless. Not because of what was said, but because of what was implied. One phrase, one look, one awkward silence, and suddenly everything changed. Is Melania Trump trapped in a life she didn't choose? Or is it all a perfectly staged political play? What you're about to see might forever change your opinion of the former First Lady of the USA. But before we dive into this dark story, tell me, could you pretend to be in love in front of millions of people if everything inside you was screaming? Leave your answer in the comments, because what Sunny Hostin revealed live might be the clue the world has ignored for years. It all started with a casual conversation on The View. A sarcastic comment here, a laugh there, but suddenly the energy shifted. Sunny, without raising her voice, dropped a bombshell disguised as a joke. She spoke of Melania not as a wife, but as an elegant captive. A woman whose gaze seems to tell a story different from the one Trump tries to sell. If looks could sign a divorce, she said. And the studio erupted in laughter. But behind that joke was something more. Because it wasn't just a critique of her facial expression. It was a veiled accusation that Melania has been communicating without words for years. And here, the alarm bells ring. Because who can survive a public relationship where every gesture is scrutinized under a microscope? How many times have we seen her next to Trump with the same frozen expression, pursed lips, absent gaze? Is she truly in love or just fulfilling a contract? It's not me saying this. It's the videos, the photos, and now the live comments from hosts like Sunny Hostin, who seem to clearly understand what many still deny. Melania never wanted this life. And the most alarming thing isn't her silence, but what's heard between the lines when she finally speaks. In a speech that went unnoticed by most, Melania said a phrase that sounded more like a warning than a reflection. Words matter, and accusations can have serious consequences. No one understood that message. But what if it was directed at someone specific? What if that person was her own husband? Think about it. While Trump shouts at rallies, attacks the media, rivals, and even former allies, Melania appears alone, silent, and increasingly detached. She doesn't accompany Trump to key events, doesn't participate in campaigns, doesn't make political statements. Is this a strategy or an escape? What if her coldness isn't indifference, but resistance? Sunny didn't throw out that phrase as if it were a mere observation, but the way she said it, with that smile full of cynicism, made it clear that it wasn't just gossip, but an accusation disguised as a joke. And that wasn't all. In the middle of the debate, a comment that set off all the alarms sounded like this. She was in Slovenia, doing I don't know what. What was she doing there? And another replied, I think she was modeling. The silence that followed was as eloquent as it was unsettling. As if everyone knew something, but no one dared say it out loud. And what do you think? Is Melania truly in love with Trump, or just surviving a marriage of convenience created by the media? Write your opinion below. I want to know what you think about this story. The truth is, while the world talks about Trump as a villain or hero, depending on whose side they're on, few pay attention to the woman who accompanies him, who smiles without showing her teeth, nods without saying a word, and walks beside him as if counting the steps to her freedom. Because if anything became clear after Sunny Hostin's appearance, it's that Melania is not just a decorative figure. She's a symbol of silence, ambiguity, resistance, or submission. And that symbolism hurts. Because there's something deeply disturbing about seeing an elegant, wealthy, and influential woman behave as if all she wants is to disappear. Is this the face of a happy wife? Or someone who chose silence as their only defense? There's a moment we can't ignore. When Trump attacks his critics on television, including women he's worked with, his language turns cruel. He calls them dirty, disgusting, stupid. And where is Melania during these attacks? Sitting, staring ahead, saying nothing. Is this loyalty or fear? And here comes another ingredient that makes this story even more unsettling. Melania has made it clear she believes in freedom. But what does freedom look like in a golden cage? During an official event, she stated, "Nameless people write the history of our nation." A vague phrase, but if you listen closely, it sounds like a complaint, as if someone is speaking for her, manipulating her image, stealing her narrative. And what if that person is her own husband? The tension between the perfect image and the broken reality is what makes the public so obsessed with the Trumps. And Melania, with her detached behavior, icy elegance, and calculated silence, has become the most enigmatic piece of the puzzle. And let's not forget, when someone like Sunny Hostin, a lawyer, political analyst, and TV host, says something with such confidence on a national program, she doesn't do it lightly. Because it wasn't just a comment, it was a coded message that went viral in a matter of hours. Hundreds of thousands of users shared that clip. Some laughed, others debated, but many more started asking questions that no one dared ask before. Is Melania trapped? Can you be against your partner and still support them publicly? Or is it all a strategy to hold on to power? One thing is clear. This story isn't just about a presidential couple. It's about how power transforms people, how silence can be more eloquent than 1,000 speeches, and how sometimes the loudest scandal isn't the one shouted, but the one whispered. If you also feel there's something strange in this relationship, leave a comment with an emoji to know you're not alone, because what you're about to learn goes far beyond a cold look or a forced smile. This is a story about love, power, and perhaps betrayal. And yes, we're just getting started. The most puzzling thing wasn't her silence, but what she hinted at with a single glance. Because when Sunny Hostin dropped that bombshell on national television, no one was prepared for the avalanche that followed. It wasn't just that Melania Trump looked unhappy. It was how she said it, when she said it, and what she implied. Hostin didn't stay on the surface, she went straight to the wound. She said what millions were thinking, but no one dared say on camera. That Melania didn't just seem detached, she was fleeing her husband's attention, as if the spotlight burned her. And the evidence was everywhere. Remember that moment during Trump's presidential campaign when Melania pushed his hand away with an icy gesture right in front of the cameras? That scene went viral in hours, but many didn't notice what happened next. Melania's public appearances became increasingly rare, almost ghostly. So much so that several tabloids even joked with a question that didn't sound so absurd. Has Melania disappeared? But wait, because what's coming isn't just a theory, it's a pattern. Hostin connected all the dots. She said Melania wasn't just distancing herself from Trump, but suffering from his indifference. Could this be another crack in the facade the former president tries so hard to keep intact? Because if there's one thing Donald Trump knows how to do, it's manage perception, image, the show. But if even his own wife seems unwilling to be part of that show, how real is what we see? And here the script changed. Hostin didn't rely on images or guesses. She quoted Melania's direct words, and what she said left everyone speechless. Melania once said in a little-remembered interview, "I don't always agree with what he says, and I let him know that." And while that might seem like an innocent phrase, the way Hostin repeated it, with a sarcastic smile and a look that said more than 1,000 words, turned that moment into political dynamite. Because if even Melania, in private conversation, tells Trump she disagrees with him, who else in his circle is silently challenging him? How real is this supposed unity? Is it just a facade? But if you think that was the most explosive part, get ready, because everything ignited with another moment. 4 words in a video. Melania said, "My body, my choice." And yes, right at the moment when her husband was celebrating the overturning of Roe v. Wade, the biggest victory against abortion rights in decades. Coincidence? Hostin didn't believe it for a second. The phrase, "my body, my choice," is the ultimate symbol of the reproductive rights movement, and hearing it from the mouth of the wife of the man who worked hardest to destroy that right was like seeing a firefighter start a fire. Absurd, shocking, and very viral. The contrast couldn't be clearer. While Trump celebrated his political feat, Melania appeared before the cameras, elegant, impeccable, saying that every person has the right to make free decisions without interference. Did she really not understand what she was saying? Or was she sending a hidden signal? And this is where Hostin shone. She dissected that contradiction with surgical precision. She said it was like watching a sunscreen ad in a tanning salon. Melania, with her calm tone and calculated smile, spoke of freedom, while her husband reinforced control. It was a kind of involuntary political comedy, so absurd it seemed written by a satirical screenwriter. And the audience exploded, because if that video achieved anything, it was completely splitting public opinion. Some saw her as a tragic figure, trapped in a golden cage. Others as a woman more cunning than she seems, throwing arrows from the shadows. And what do you think? Is Melania playing a role or asking for help? Leave your comment, because this story is just beginning. And if you think you've seen it all, what's coming will shock you, because there's another recent public appearance by Melania where she said something no one expected to hear. And you won't believe who was by her side when she said it. Don't miss it. Stay until the end. Because what she revealed could change everything. And while the whole world watches Donald Trump, obsessed with his every word, in the shadows, there's a figure sending a message without saying a word. Melania Trump. Yes, her silence may seem elegant, but for those who pay attention, every gesture, every absence, and every measured word carries the weight of an earthquake. Because in a world where Trump demands blind loyalty, Melania seems to say, I don't play by those rules. And you know what's most unsettling? That this behavior might be causing Trump more harm than anyone dares to admit. Because it's not just about an absent first lady. It's much darker, as if Melania has become the quietest but deepest crack in Trump's empire. And if I tell you that what Melania doesn't say is more powerful than all her husband's speeches? Remember that awkward moment at the airport when she coldly pushed his hand away? It seemed trivial, but it went viral because that simple gesture captured what many already suspected. Melania isn't fully aligned with her husband's political game. And then came that video. That message about personal freedom. At the moment when millions of women lost the right to decide over their bodies after the overturning of Roe v. Wade, Melania released a video celebrating freedom of choice. Was it an act of rebellion or a colossal political blunder? At the very least, that message directly contradicted the policy of the man she shares her life with. And analysts didn't hesitate to interpret it as a deliberate act, a coded message, a silent cry. And here everything becomes even more unsettling, because Melania almost never speaks, almost never appears, almost never says what she thinks. But when she does, she shakes the table. Why? Because her silence has become so deafening that when she finally utters a word, everyone listens. And that's a problem for Trump. A problem he can't control, because he's used to having everyone around him applaud, support him unquestioningly. But Melania isn't one of them. While he demands blind loyalty, she offers distance. While he puts on a show, she stays in the shadows. While he repeats that everything is under control, she contradicts him with her presence or absence. And you know what's most paradoxical? That this behavior has made her one of the most intriguing figures in his circle. Some think it's a strategy, that she's protecting herself so as not to sync with him if everything collapses, that her absence is an elegant way of saying, I don't approve of this. Others believe she simply doesn't care, that she's there out of duty, but her heart is far from the political spectacle. But there's a third theory, the most dangerous for Trump, that Melania is a ticking time bomb, that her silence isn't indifference but calculation, that she's waiting for the right moment to speak, and when she does, it could destroy everything. Because in the age of social media, one confession, one phrase, one interview can change everything. What if Melania speaks? What if she tells what she's seen, what she knows, what she really thinks? The press would pounce on her, headlines would explode, and Trump's narrative, built on the image of unity and control, would collapse in seconds. But let's get back to the core. What does all this tell us about the kind of leadership Donald Trump represents? A leadership that values loyalty above competence, that prefers to surround itself with unquestioning followers rather than experts, that turns any criticism into betrayal. And that, according to analysts like Hostin, not only damaged his administration, but left a deep mark on American politics. Because when loyalty becomes the only value, truth disappears, effectiveness is lost, and the entire country pays the price. Think of all those who started as Trump's allies and ended as enemies. People who were once key figures in his team, but, daring to question him, were publicly destroyed. Provocative tweets, sudden firings, baseless accusations. All for not following the one unwritten rule of Trump's universe: never contradict him. And here's where Melania breaks the mold, because she doesn't contradict him, but she doesn't support him either. She doesn't openly back him, but she doesn't abandon him either. She lives in a gray zone that's more powerful than any affirmation or denial. And in Trump's world, that's dangerous, because ambiguity in politics is a constant threat. Who is Melania really? A submissive wife? A trapped woman? A silent strategist? Everyone has their theory, but the fact remains, her behavior speaks to something bigger, about a political system based on appearances, feigned loyalty, and the constant need for spectacle. A system where even the First Lady can become an anomaly, a risk, a symbol of contradiction. And if you thought all this only affects her marriage, think again. Because it's not just about personal relationships, but the very way power is built. It's the fragility of leadership based on image. It's the crisis of a politics that values obedience over common sense. And here's where Melania's silence becomes deafening. Because in a world where everyone shouts to be heard, she stays silent. And that silence feels like a verdict. Have you ever wondered what will happen if that silence is broken? What if what Melania doesn't say turns out to be more destructive than any attack from her enemies? This isn't just another chapter in the Trump drama. It's a warning about what happens when power is built on quicksand, about what happens when even the closest people start to pull away, and about how sometimes the most unexpected enemy sleeps beside you. If you want to know more, don't leave without dropping a comment below. Do you think Melania is planning something, or is she just tired and done participating? Your opinion could spark a new discussion. And who knows, maybe you'll witness the start of something much bigger. Give a like if this twist in the story surprised you, and subscribe to uncover the secrets that haven't yet come to light, because this is just the beginning.